Some call me opinionated, polemic, and that I have a chip on my shoulder, which could be considered typical characteristics of a narcissist when you Google the meaning. I define myself as outspoken and as someone who has my own way. Since I always try to adapt the topic and title of my stories to my current life situation, I decided this time to talk about the upcoming start of my professional self-employment. There were 3 reasons that triggered me on this topic, and which also explains my chosen title. Here comes my first trigger. I had the honor of meeting and exchanging ideas with a respected entrepreneur and politician from my region of Upper Austria not so long time ago. In private, he told me, among other things, that he missed the self-confidence in the women's world. His words made me think, especially since they come from a man. And not just a man, but someone with a lot of invaluable professional and interpersonal experience. A wise man whose words are definitely to be taken seriously. How could it be that women are still not perceived as equal and self-confident as their male counterparts? My thoughts led me to my childhood memories, when many women of my generation grew up with Pippi Longstocking. Pippi from Sweden has taught us numerous women in the Western world the best way to live. She is against all Swedish society rules, and paradoxically, she managed to become one of the biggest stars in her own country. She is a role model for many women, because to follow everything blindly or to stop questioning things would be fatal. She knows how to gather people around her and entices them to go on adventures together. The can't-do attitude doesn't exist in her world. We always need strong, courageous, honest, warm and creative women, and now more than ever. We should continue to be inspired by her healthy optimism, "I'll make the world how I like it," as the struggle of equality is not over yet. What can I say? I haven't given up on her, and neither on her ideology. I am an enthusiastic lateral thinker myself, and always question roles and rules. And to top it off, everyone who knows me knows that I have freckles. And the fact that I keep dyeing my hair red is probably because I want to be more like her. This summer, I reached the highest level of red to date. It was also the birth of my company Rats on Fire, which logo is held in red colors. How symbolic is that? In any case, this strong girl helped many to become a confident and empowered woman of the world. She inspired many of my generation and helped women across the globe to gradually feel enabled to step up and to dare to say that silence is not always golden. That's good so, and above all, let's keep on doing it. Thank you, Pippi Lotta, Victualia, Rulgardina, Krusmunta, Efraimsdotter Långstrump. This first topic of women's self-confidence is strongly linked to my second trigger, which is a phenomenon that I have been intrigued since I arrived to Sweden in 2012, so 10 years ago now, and I call it the paradox of Sweden. When I moved to Sweden, I expected that the locals would behave in a similar way to the people, at least in my home country, Austria. Many times I found myself surprised how different the Swedish culture can be, and in particular in the work life. Swedes have strong ties to the work environment and other groups. This very distinct sentiment of group belonging outside the family and friend circle is something that I simply do not have, or at least not to that extent. Now to the paradox. Swedes believe in the freedom of the individual. They strive to be independent from others and for self-realization. At the same time, Swedes are a homogeneous group of people. They very much care what their colleagues or neighbors do and don't want to be fancier than their peers. Be yourself, but only if yourself isn't any different from the people around you. How schizophrenic is that? A classic example of a paradox. Anyone who has read my first book knows my personal background and quickly understands why I was, for example, never able to identify myself 100% with a nationality, or to put it more precisely, never allowed to be labeled in any way. Not ethnically, not politically, not religiously, not anything. Nada, rien, punkt. I never got pinned down. I like it colorful. The more colorful the palette, the better, and the more comfortable and secure I feel in the mix. What is true to my private life is also reflected throughout my professional career. Deep inside of me, I always knew that I thrive on being independent there too, and not being tied to any longer job or work assignments. It possibly also explains why I decided not to pursue my career within the EU institutions, even though it is a lifetime job and gives all the security one can wish for. It possibly also explains why I froze when I heard one of my colleagues say when starting a new job in Stockholm, "The conditions are so good here, you will never leave again." Believe me, it isn't easy to take such a big decision like I'm doing, especially not in these times of economic, health and geopolitical uncertainties. It also constitutes my biggest challenge in life so far. But I'm taking this step into self-employment because independence and outspokenness are and always were my prerogatives. That way, I will, in good old-fashioned, behave in a very un-Swedish way and continue with my motto, no one ever made a difference by being like everyone else. Because my belief is that this is what is most wished for in the professional world. Something that stands out and elevates you to the pedestal of being seen, even in Sweden. And this leads me to my third and last trigger. Good communication is crucial. Far too often, I have seen meaningless and endless blah blah content being published that no one sees, let alone reads anymore. Meaningless not because the topics aren't important, but because the message isn't conveyed in an attention-grabbing manner. And so a lot of articles and posts wither away to yet another content that nobody pays attention to, because it most likely just says the same thing anyway. Reality is that only a few manage to shine with their messages. Storytelling is one good tool. If you aren't using storytelling techniques to hook your audience, keep them engaged, and ultimately persuade to influence them, then it's likely what you said will be forgotten and not acted upon. That's a pity when you consider that the product or service offered to solve, or at least partially solve, a problem would actually be able to. An example of these are topics like digitization, greening, and sustainability, which are important starting points in combating climate change. It showcases clearly that if the communication is not handled right, practically all efforts are in vain. And this is the often underestimated unique selling point, which should be a priority within any company or organization. Storytelling is something I've always believed in and that I work with myself. And I don't get tired of saying it because I see so many failing by not using it. And it comes another important aspect. Good communication skills in leadership is vital, especially in the management level where there is a big lack of ease. E for enthusiasm, for excitement, for emotional intelligence, etc. And also the E in CEO. A CEO needs to be much more nowadays than only the Chief Executive Officer. E should stand for engagement, because this is what it needs from a leader. He or she needs to engage all involved parties, starting within the business with the employees. Engagement creates excitement and passion, a feeling of belonging and happiness. And this will automatically create a positive snowball effect and set the fire of passion to all other involved parties, meaning all the stakeholders outside the business. To sum it up, everyday language refers to people as narcissists who are self-centered and very confident in themselves. Self-love and self-respect, on the other hand, are designations for a healthy appreciation and respect for oneself, which does not exclude the ability to help others. For myself, I strive for change and improvement and want to make a difference and be seen. I love to break up old encrusted structures, and I believe that the real change can only come from the outside. I am outspoken and certainly less politically correct than most. Also less reverent, but with a due respect. And that, in my opinion, brings advantages. The fact that my self-employment would happen in Sweden is, of course, all the more interesting given the paradox of Sweden that I just explained. At the same time, it gives me the opportunity to stand out in my unique way and to create benefits for myself and for the others at the same time. The good narcissist, as the title says. Pippi was probably subconsciously the first impetus for me becoming self-employed. Especially as women, we must continue to fight not to let ourselves be degraded as opinionated or branded with other negative attributes just because we are self-confident and have our convictions. To all the Swedes, I believe you have already understood that I'm no grey little mouse, but just like the name of my newly created business says, a true rat's on fire. Please respect that I accept your paradox, but in return, please also respect if I appear as a paradox to you in being a good narcissist. You are proud of being inclusive. Now it's time to show your colors. I will do my best to integrate as a perfect stain within the Swedish society. A society that I like to shake up from time to time to trigger self-reflection. With love and respect, Julita Lotta, alias Rats on Fire.